So where are we sort of going with some of this in terms of like, is this going to be like a mock-up, like a broad view kind of thing, and then the smaller details don't matter so much, or is this going to be the fully realized experience, and then we should build something similar to that, if that makes sense?
Yeah. What do people think about that?
Maybe I could share my experience from the design sprint from AG and Smart.
Please.
It's about building really a facade of the future product, and to test something, a real task. We should focus on a task. So what would be the thing we want the user to accomplish on our future prototype? Maybe we should write down on a post-it individually what we think and share that. Maybe it could guide us.
On our white post-its here, suggestions for what we want, or what we think is doable.
Yes, what would be the thing we want the user who is going to test to accomplish on the prototype? The main thing, or the main things, but just one is already good. One thing we want the user to accomplish on the future prototype.
Okay, let's do that. Maybe, where can we do this here? God, it's amazing how these murals just fill up so quickly.
Maybe on we can use the starting screen. It's not,
Yeah, we're going to run out of space here, but listen, I'm just going to move this down, and we'll just take these.
We have a lot of space on the right of the mood board, so you can just drop it there, right?
Okay, let's do that then. Okay, does everyone see these post-its?
Yes.
Let's just start working on those, and I'm going to set a little timer here.
And the question is, if you want to write it, is what would be the thing we want the user to accomplish on our prototype? Or if you have a better sentence.
Nope, that's good.
And this will be the task actually that we will give to him during the user test. You know what I mean? You want to change your, I don't know, you want to register for Monday. You want to do this, you want to do that. How do you do on the prototype? And we observe.
Okay.
So let's do that. Yes. It's really about an action, actually. What goal? What is your end goal? Yes, it's about a task that we want the user to accomplish. A task.
Right.
Which task?
So looking forward to a user test, the experience that we want to see is that user who's encountered our prototype for the first time. By the end of that experience, what is that action that we want to watch them doing?
Yeah, a task.
And that implies something that we can either witness them doing or that we can measure. So that kind of argues against them having a feeling, unless they can share the feeling with us, it needs to be something that can be measured or witnessed.
You say, what task do we want our user to accomplish with our prototype? Yes, what task? It's better. Imagine you want to blah, blah, blah. To It should be something very specific, like you want to rent a car for tomorrow. Do you see
Yes.
the kind of goal we are looking for?
This is an interesting exercise. I feel I am typically the programmer when it comes to different projects. So like I'm new to this whole design thinking thing. And I feel like I'm exercising muscles here that I don't typically expend. But I find it valuable. It's just something I'm not used to doing.
Yeah. Well, and it's this is not a product, not yet. So in a lot of ways, it's very agile. It's focused on what can we do today? What simple thing can we create that tests something and allows us to learn from it? So in that sense, we're not talking about creating a website. We're talking about creating something that we can use to measure something else.
To the user. Yes. Imagine.
Let's give this to like another minute or so.
Maybe we could share now.
Yep. So should we just kind of talk through some of these really quickly, and then
Yeah.
maybe have a voting session really
Yeah.
quickly to pick something so that we can get focused on back to our prototype? I'll start. If we move left from right, this is my first tile. I think it's the only one I contributed here, or actually this one too. But how can we cause our user to share something? So at the end, that final screen of our prototype, that would assume or imagine that that screen has something on it with share buttons, and that what we would want is our user to click one of those buttons and share it to Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or something. Would they click that button on that final screen, or would they walk away?
And what is the thing that they should share?
That's what we'd have to figure out. But in my imagination, it would be they're reading a story or they're reading two stories, and that would mean then potentially that both stories would be arranged on the same page with the same URL. So when they are sharing that and they're sharing that URL, the person who clicks that link would have to come back to that page and see both stories, not just one or the other. Because that to me is kind of our unique proposition. It's not just that you can see these stories, because you can see stories anywhere. It's that you see two stories, or at least two stories, simultaneously, and that that's what we offer.
Okay. And so we would say to the user, imagine that you want to share to Facebook a story. How would you do that on our prototype? That's right.
Yes, I mean, ideally, we would get to that point in the prototype, and we would ask, or they would either do it, or we would ask, would you share this now to Facebook? And they would say yes or no, or maybe, or what have you.
Okay. do we want a yes or no answer, or do we want to observe someone doing something to verify the usability and the flow? What we usually do in design sprint.
Well,
So
yeah, I think that's a question for our tester.
Okay.
Who is speaking there? Was that Finn?
yeah,
Go ahead.
so I think from different parts of the prototype, we want different things. So I think in the end, or ultimately, we do want a yes or no answer to will the person share the content. But during the prototype, at least the design sprint that I've worked before, design sprints that I've worked with before, didn't just focus on one sprint question. Maybe there was one that was the most important, but it doesn't mean that we can't observe different parts of the prototype as well. And what would be interesting is to observe the user interacting with the main part of our website experience, the two articles side by side, because this would be a different question. Is the user influenced by our approach to sharing news? And but while I'm talking, I can just go ahead and announce my card to the right of Ken's, which is exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
My question was also, will we get the user to share our website, the experience of scrolling through a website on their personal social media? And I think the somewhat elongated statement that I wrote before your clarification, Marie, was, can we create a website appealing enough, or a website which is with a scrolling experience appealing enough for somebody to share it on their personal social media?
Okay. Who else wants to share?
I had the one on the right of that, but I don't think I need to go into that because it was exactly the same. The action is you want to share the paired article to at least one of your social media accounts, and I would say that we just want them to observe it. I don't know if it's feasible to also actually create a sharing option. I have no idea. But I would say that even observing them doing it would also already be very valuable. Depends. I think that's up to the testers as well. Yeah.
Okay. The next card was mine. I think I can skip over it. Tell friends about it, but that's just too open-ended. I think we want a observable action. So maybe have some sort of read more button. Whose was that?
That was me.
Okay.
So for that, just like as an alternative, could be like, depending on how the information is going to be laid out, like left, center, right view, and then have like a little teaser that's like, here's what this news article is about. And then it only goes into the brief details, and you can click read more or something to go into the deeper discussion and use that as like a proxy of, okay, people were interested enough in this that they wanted to click through. And that could be one way to like measure engagement and overall interest in the way that we presented the information.
That's an interesting idea. And it makes me think that even though we've said we don't want to quiz people or have them fill out a political compass, it would be interesting to track what they click. If we have, for example, left, right, center, hypothetically, and we've noticed that our particular user consistently clicks one of those columns, it would be interesting to know whether or not we want to report back to that user, hey, we've noticed that you almost always click on the left of center article, and maybe encourage them to not do that as much. But I don't know, it's just, we're going to know that if they will click on one or the other, and what would we do with that information that supports our core mission?
Yeah, that would be interesting as a way to adapt it. And you could, yeah, and even do something of maybe make the other side of the table a little more prominent as, over time. If you're always clicking on the left, then here's some of the right information.
Mhm.
And yeah, so that was one idea that I thought might be interesting to observe. And my other cards, I had a few others. I'll just
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead on those. So mine was 2 over. So they read multiple takes on the same news story. So just like see how long they stay.
Oh,
Both of those. So how long they stay on the homepage, how far they scroll on the homepage, or if they click and dive into different pages. Kind of the same idea, but seeing really like if they're interested enough to say, hey, I want to read more and dive deeper into this topic.
Sarah, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, so mine, it's about, I kind of put it like higher level, but if the way I visualize it is that if we have like 2 different articles having some sort of like voting or like button where the people that are consuming it, they will be able to, say, oh, I like the right or left article more. But like that creates like a kind of like a way to measure how many people have been, liking this one and how many people like this one. So you kind of like have a feeling of like what are people in your demographic maybe like thinking, like they are looking at both point of views, but they can add a reaction to it, so it's to me it's interesting to have that like some chart or something of like 50% is liking this one, 20% likes this one, just to like have that view, not only to like read the articles and get educated, but also, oh, I kind of like, I read both of them and I lean to this or lean to that, like, I think that would be a cool feature to have.
Yeah, I think we're starting to uncover some things that we can do with what our readers are doing. And the question for us will be what we can do with that information and how much we report back, and to inform our readers of how they're behaving on our website and whether or not they want that information or whether or not it furthers our goals. Who's got measured dwell time on the homepage?
That was mine as well.
Okay, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so that would be just measuring how long people would stay on the homepage, see how interested they are, like that this, like, okay, I'm going to keep going, and see like how far they scroll, how long it takes them to find a story that they find interesting, and might be a way to like figure out if the way that we're presenting the information is intriguing enough, or if it's like intuitive and people find the content worthwhile, like worth their time.
Okay.
And same for any given article.
Okay. Create empathy for others by asking users. Whose was that?
That's mine. And then the next one, I think I'm not sure if I could create a poll, but like I wanted to like have some way to have empathy, but I thought about like, how do you measure empathy, right? Because that's the goal, like we want to create empathy for others. So maybe like creating some sort of poll with like some questions on like the understanding of these perspectives. So kind of like sending random polls throughout the feed. And I don't know, like users could likewise ask, option A, B, and C about something, just kind of like to measure the empathy level, something like that. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, I like that idea. I don't know how we do it, but one of the things I like to try to think about is where can we create differentiation? And those are the kinds of things that maybe we can do that others aren't doing. If we can make assumptions about, okay, the other products that are in this space, maybe they're just doing the bare minimum. Here's a bunch of articles that are across the spectrum. Well, if you want to know more about what other people are feeling and how they're reacting and how you are reacting, that's when you come to our website, because we not only do that, but we give our readers a sense of what they're experiencing and how they're reacting to it in real time. So actually, that's the very last two, compare statistics and view a high level of what others think, is consistent with, I think, what I just said. Whose are those?
I wrote those, so they are definitely with the others. So like, we
Yeah.
do copies. Mhm.
Okay. Okay, anything else that we want to cover? Did anyone have a thought that they wanted to contribute as they were listening to others?
Maybe for my part, I wasn't there yesterday, but on what you said, Ken, this is the post-it I would like to, this is the sentence, well, the goal, the end goal I would like to give to the tester, the user who will test. Imagine you want to share to Facebook a story. How would you do it on the proto? And observe him doing, and then asking him, do you find that interesting? What do you think about that, etc., etc. But
Okay.
first, trying to observe the task, the usability actually of the interface.
Okay,
I
so
think,
go ahead.
I think we're dealing with some sort of interface that's not, or at least in the way that I envision it, that's not overly complex or unusual. So I think in terms of usability, we're pretty much connecting to something that's already very known, a general website with the option to share something. For me, the question would not be, is the person that we're interviewing able to find the button to share the content, but rather, is the content inspiring enough so that the person wants to share the content? So it is indeed much more a question of user experience rather than just usability.
Yes. So you imagine a prototype very quick with only 2 screens or 1 screen. That's why I understand. It's not really interactive in your mind.
I think it's interactive, but I think there is such a common knowledge of certain symbols and ways of interacting with websites that the question of usability doesn't really pose itself. Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say, Finn, is that if we're focused on the action at the very end of the test, then the usability and whether or not the website has a high degree of usability is somewhat irrelevant. What we're focused on is the experience of going through the prototype caused them to feel like they had some kind of reaction to it that makes them want to share that experience of seeing both sides of something, or 3 sides, or what have you. And so, the quality of the user experience is not that important. but it's something that we have to take into consideration. We can't just make this a Word doc. It has to look like an actual user experience for a real thing up to a point. Anyone else have any thoughts about that? So it makes me wonder, as we're talking about this and the focus that we have, if we think about our story from yesterday, how much what we've created so far supports that end goal. For example, if we want to come back to our individual steps, obviously we have a home page. Do we care that people will be able to choose from local topics or international topics? Is that an essential experience for our users to go through in order to get to that final step? Or is that just a way for them to understand what type of publication this is?
I would actually say, or how I see it, I would say it's essential.
Okay.
As it does really add that extra. It is where we could be different than what else is out there. That you not only can only see paired articles, but you see international and national as well. So I would definitely take people through that step as well.
Okay.
Because we want to get people out of their bubble, and an echo chamber is not only an opinion, it is also, I would say, location. So yeah.
Okay. So I'm just kind of adding to the wireframe here, and this really isn't a wireframe yet, but it's close. But so that would mean that on our first screen that the user sees, they will see a mock-up of our homepage. And what we want them to experience on that first screen is, oh, this is a real website, it's a news website, and what makes it different? And so we will need to communicate that on this very first page. It can't just look like the Washington Post or the Guardian or something like that. They have to get a sense on that first page that this is about showing opposite views or left, right, and center. So they'll need to see that on the home page. Does everyone kind of agree with that?
This is about showing different views. I just write it down.
Yep.
Because it's like a content we can keep for the prototype. Yes.
Yep. So once they've done that, then our expectation is that they will see, okay, I get it. That's what the core value proposition is. It shows different viewpoints for everything that's presented. You will never see just one viewpoint. You'll see you'll see an additional viewpoint, if not more. And then once they've done that, then we want them to explore. So the next screen is we hope that they will choose from one of the things on that homepage. And from yesterday, we were thinking that it was important to have local topics and international topics, meaning localized content and content from outside of your particular bubble. Whether if you're in the US, then you want to see international news, or if you're in Europe, then you want to see US news or something. That's what screen 3 and 4 is, the ability to jump from the home page to different sections. Does that still feel right? Based on our getting to our final destination? Because for me, what that says is what we're showing is that it's broad and that we cover a lot of territory, if in fact that's what we want to do. I mean, we could say that for our MVP, we just stick with the US or Europe or something. But I guess for now, we don't have to worry about that so much. We're just focused on getting test results.
Yeah, that is one thing that I'm wondering is how we will get this information. Like, one of us is going to have to curate it, and doing these different views like doing it local and international, I think from the get-go might be more complicated, just in terms of that curation experience.
Yeah, those are the things that you think about when you're putting a prototype together is, you know, obviously you want to fake it until you make it, and it's okay for people, your testers, to know that this is a mock-up of something, but you want to try to do as good a job as possible, because the degree to which that mock-up becomes part of their perception, that can change the results of your test. So how difficult will it be for us to pull content together? For example, we could, for our purposes of our test, just rip off and copy and paste stuff from that other news site that we saw. What was it again?
All
All
sides.
sides.
All sides.
Yeah.
I mean, we could steal that content directly just to create our own mock-up. And then I would ask, well, once we've done that, what have we done differently? Because then it just becomes a different user experience, but the content is the same.
So another idea that we could use to be cheap is we could find, let's say, 3 or 4 articles that are in nature quite broad, maybe tackling something like the Green New Deal. And then we can, and then we can find different aspects or different side topics that the article touches on. And even though it seems as if the user is presented with a choice of 5 different sections, do you want to talk about globalization? Do you want to talk about climate change? Do you want to talk about domestic tensions? Do you want to talk about the failures of our democracy? Indifferent to what they choose, they always get sent to the same article, and the article touches to some degree on every one of this topic. It's somewhat cheating, but to be honest, you know, the people know that they're in an interview testing a prototype, so you know, the quality of the articles will be secondary at most.
So I think what I heard is, for example, our mock-up could just show 3 articles, left, right, and center. And everything else on the page in terms of articles would be lorem ipsum. And we would fake the balance, but we wouldn't actually have articles because we don't have time to do that. All we really want to do is test our proposition that if people came to our product and saw the 2 to 3 views on the single topic, will they get what we're trying to do? And will they be interested enough to say, okay, well, I'm interested in looking at the other 2 views here, following it through to what we hope is the end, and sharing. So I'm just thinking from a realistic, you know, mock-up perspective, I could see a home page that just has all of the Chrome around it, the user interface that looks like a real news website. But instead of going to the trouble of copying and pasting and looking for all of those articles, we just take one thing, find those 3 articles, arrange them the way we want to on that page, and that will be our stand-in for our product. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's not quite what I meant, but I think your idea is even simpler.
Yeah, I like that idea. So when we're saying something like local topics would be displayed there, are we talking about like local news article or international topics, like just articles, or would those be like categories? Like what does topics mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could just be the name of that section could just be local. But for that reader, then local means my hometown or my state or my country. But at a certain point, local just is no longer a country. It's something much more specific. So I think we need to be cautious about what we're saying here. So it could just be U.S. and international. So local instead would be US, or, you know, part of it too is figuring out what we think our product is all about. Is it hyper local, or is it a national in scope publication? Hyper local is really, really hard to do. So, you know, who has thoughts on that?
I mean, for a prototype and an MVP, we might maybe do this simpler that we can do well, you know, so we can actually test it. So I would vote for the, you know, like not doing something too complex that we cannot test because it's not going to be represented well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So having this conversation, I'm going to go back to this. Do we need these screens? Do we need a screen where people can jump to local topics from the homepage or international topics? Or have we just kind of made screens 3 and 4 somewhat obsolete?
I'm not convinced it's really useful for the test, for what we want to test.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Marie or Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that maybe we can do like not like multiple screens, but maybe like add a filter icon where it will show, oh, you will be able to view these other options in a filter form, you know, instead of having pages.
So where would that filter be? Would it be on the homepage?
Yeah, definitely. They can start searching, filtering from the homepage and in the other pages as well. So if they filter local topics, the filter can be go deep, right? So as much as we want it to be. And then in each screen that they will go to the, you know, news of that specific filter they chose, they can also filter back. So every screen should have that filter.
Okay.
Maybe search and filter.
But what action do we want him to do on this page to filter? Is that what we want to test? Or is it the first
Instead of
action?
having multiple pages, they can just search and filter what they're looking for. So that feature is included in the MVP, so they know they can filter, you know, as deep as we want them to, or if like what the user is asking, like the filter can be very high level or it can be deep. You know, like you use this word, can they hyper local? Did you say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like very deeply into like your local area, or it can be higher into like a macro view. So a filter has all the like areas in between that.
What kind of filter do you see, and which filter do you want the user to choose for the test? Concrete example. It's like storytelling, you know, he has to have a concrete example.
Okay. Maybe filters can be, I think Finn mentioned some options like globalization, climate change, political views in the US, Europe, you know, those can be some examples.
Okay, I'm trying to materialize it. Europe and what did you say? Climate
change, globalization. I'm going with what like Finn's options were. I think they were good. But Europe, like what's US, Europe, globalization, climate change.
And then the user would click on, for example, globalization, and he would go on a next screen, well, another view, I would say. What would be shown on this view?
Well, like if we have, for instance, if we have like local topics and international topics, we have to divide it in those two, but there can also be one main filter for both. So instead of having in the homepage local topics and international topics, that's a filter, you know, of like, let's say the homepage has selection of some spotlights, and then the filter will say local topics or international topics, those two. Then from local topics, we can say, reduce it, right, to climate change, political views. And then if you go international, we can also do climate change and political views. So each filter will go deeper and deeper in your, to a more specific area.
Okay. And on the content, on a specific content, what would be the next action?
The feed.
The feed.
So once they get to the filter, they click, select go, and then it will filter feed of the news of what information.
Can I ask, does filter and sections mean the same in this case? Just clarifying.
I'm sorry?
Like filter and section, is that would you say that means the same? For me it sounds very similar, like dividing by sections or dividing, or like having a filter.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just also going to say yes. I think we use the word interchangeably.
So as I was listening to this, I kind of had a vision for how this could work that might pull all this together, or it might restrict us, but, and bear with me here, but what we can do with our homepage is, instead of worrying about showing sections like local topics, international topics, our homepage is just a place for featured, what we would call featured content. So it would be the top story, or maybe the most clicked story, or whatever, but we would just simply show the top story with the 3 versions. And maybe underneath that, you know, the next 2 or 3. But instead of having a bunch of individual sections that say international topics, local topics, we would move that to either our navigation or our filter or sort drop down. And people could click that in our prototype simply to see the breadth of information that we have, but we're not going to let them go there because that's outside of the scope of our test. So the user would see on the homepage the featured content, like the story of the day, told from 3 perspectives. And when they see the navigation, they'll get a sense for how deep we go across all these subjects. Or if they click that filter button, the drop-down will show US, Europe, it will show a Green New Deal or whatever. It will give them that's where they will get a sense for how big our territory is, but we're not going to bother to mock that up. So that's just our homepage. And then on the homepage, they'll see the 3 versions of the same topic, and they can click on any one of those and go to the next page, which will show them that article. And then in the sidebar next to it, it will show the synopsis, I guess, of the other 2 stories right there. So they will never be able to see just one version of an article without seeing the other one with it, but just in a smaller size. And When they share, they can't share one, they can only share this URL, which covers all 3 articles on the same page. So that if they decide to share out something with a friend and they click that share button, what their friend will see when they come to our website is this page with all 3 things on the same page. So we're never showing just one side of a story, we're showing all 3 at the same time. And I mean, that could be the entire test.
Okay, so Ken, I'm trying to materialize everything that you said.
Yeah, I
So sorry,
understand.
I'm still on the home page.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
So the top stories, 3 perspectives.
Yep.
We will have to invent realistic content here.
And we can steal that from someplace. I'm not worried about that.
I'm just worried about one thing. Like now we eliminated some features during this process of like going towards the prototype, and I spent some time on the All Sites website, and I find it that there's not much in which we differentiate at the moment. I was like trying to breaking my brain over how can we be different without complicating it too much. Because like you just said, like we don't just want it to be a different user interface, although I do think that the All Sites website with a different user interface would already be a whole improvement and an interesting prototype as well.
Right.
But I think we have to find a balance there between like not just
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. Of course, the designer in me will say, well, we'll just do what they do, but just better. But define better and in a meaningful way. And I don't know what that is.
I don't really mind doing it the same way, but better and minimalist, with a better user interface and minimalistic. But I think we can maybe also just have another look at the features we discussed and at the flow and which elements were in there, and see if there is one that we could integrate in the prototype that wouldn't complicate it too much, but that will differentiate us a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure where to go with the differentiation idea, but I will say I like the idea of having articles you can just jump into on the home page from a simplicity standpoint, and also just how I consume news. It seems like a little bit jumping through hoops if I have to select one category and then go into the next category to get to actual stories and not just be able to read from the get-go. And that might just be my experience.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, what the All Sides website clearly doesn't do, and what we do, is that we go by topic. We take one topic and then present 3 articles from 3 different sides. Whereas to complete the same action on the All Sides website, you would have to go. You would actually have to go actively looking for the other 2 perspectives on the topic that you're interested in.
If you share on the All Sides website, you share one view, not all views.
Sorry?
If you share an article on the All Sides website, you just go one of the views.
Yeah, and you would actually have, as far as I've been able to comprehend, you would have to go actively looking for the other perspectives on that topic. The content is there on the All Sides websites as well, and the difference would again be somewhat in the user experience, but for me that's enough to differentiate us. And I feel like we're ticking most of the boxes with the road we're on right now, and I would I think I would like to keep going. If there's some specific idea of how we could differentiate, or if there's a specific idea of what we can add to the prototype, then I think we can certainly think about incorporating that. But I would probably restrain from any larger circles.
Okay. Sarah, what do you think about this? Do you have any thoughts? I mean, does this sound like something you'd be interested in?
Well, I'm thinking like for me, for instance, specifically my persona would be, I would want to consume certain type of like let's say the top stories. My questions I have like, it's like, would they be the same for all of the people around the world, right? Like, so if I land on this page, if I you know, my profile might like maybe send me information about these three specific perspectives or the story, like the top story, but we do want to avoid this like polarization of like, because there's a geolocation and a profile, then I can only see what interest to me, right? But for instance, Mino is in the other side of the world, so she's seeing something we don't, I mean, there are open questions like, do we want her to see something else, or do we want her to see the same thing that I will see if we have different locations, different, you know, information. So if the goal is to like not polarize information, but also consider that the news that we will see, how much do we want everyone to see the same thing on the homepage, right? Or do will be randomized, or like should the user like set their settings on? I'm interested in these topics. I don't know, like those are open questions I have.
The most important one for this one, I would say, is that it's not algorithm based, but curated. But that can still be like locally and internationally. You have to see how far locally it goes. And just between, I just shared one of the All Sides article, and it actually does the only option is that you share the article with the three perspectives. So it's not one of them; it's all of them beneath each other. But it doesn't really matter. Just to try it out.
So my question is like, do we want the article to be the same for everyone, or do we want to randomize it, or are we going to maybe have it, you said curated, just like, I mean, how do we represent that?
I'm going to take this opportunity to make sure that we're all rested. So let's take a 5-minute break between our 2 hours here, and everyone can get up and get a drink or refresh or something. But let's just pause for 5 minutes and get back to this, because this is actually something, Sarah, that I think is one of those core differentiators that I want to talk about. So let's do a 5-minute timer. I'm not facilitating this, so Minu, if this is your board, if you're facilitating, if you could set a timer for 5 minutes, and let's all come back.
Thank you.
Okay. So how's everybody feeling about where we're at so far?
I feel like we're making progress.
I knew you look puzzled.
Yeah, a bit. But that's just because I'm not very familiar with this process. So I'm just kind of taking a backseat today and seeing how this all goes. I am, I am a bit worried about the whole differentiations thing. Like it's not per se necessary, but yeah. I find it a difficult one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it would be a lot easier if we had not seen the other website. But you could also say, well, if it was such a great idea, then why hadn't somebody else thought of it? And they probably have.
Yeah, that's also my point. Like, I know no one ever thinks of one idea and then it doesn't exist. There are always multiple versions of it, and I'm completely okay with this. Only now I just have a feeling that we're getting really, really close to it, and we do know this website. So I think like we could think of a way to improve it in any sort and actually test this improvement.
Mm-hmm.
But I would be okay as well with moving forward without this.
Yeah. Just another minute for Marie and Sarah to come back. Well, and I'm honestly having to guard against my traditional designer instinct to say, okay, I know what this is. I can see the beginning, I can see the end, and I know how to design it and build it. And which I didn't have an hour and 20 minutes ago. But that doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do.
But I think it's symptomatic of what Austin also described, that it's somewhat taking shape, and we're making progress towards a prototype that we might actually be able to design and build.
Yeah. But like Minu, I also want to make sure that, and this isn't part of our brief, but if our test subjects knew about all sides and then saw ours, they would say, yeah, I like yours better, and I'm much more inclined to read it than all sides.
Mm-hmm.
If that could happen, and if we can build that into our prototype, then I'll be happy.
Yeah. If we could find a differentiator that would enhance the experience without, making things significantly more complicated, then I see value in that.
Yeah. Well, then let's just finish roughing out this wireframe and getting the flow from beginning of the prototype to the end, our last action step. And then once we've got that roughed out, circle back, and then let's talk about how to improve the user experience into something that we think differentiates us.
Yes.
Okay. So just to recap, we've got a homepage. We will show our test subjects that will show them what this is and show them, we hope, the core value proposition instantly. They'll get it when they see it, and they'll say, oh, this is how it's different. And they'll either know they're interested in it or not. But what we want them to do is get it right away on the homepage. They'll have a few options to choose from that will be very proscribed, meaning that there'll be things that we want them to know, but not necessarily actions that we want them to take. But we'll want them to click these read more buttons. And from here, I think what they will see is if they click this button, then they will go to perspective 1 with perspective 2 and 3 on the sidebar. If they click this, they'll see perspective 2 with perspective 1 and 3 on the sidebar, and so on. And then the share function will be at the bottom of this page, so that if they want to share this, everyone who sees this, when they see the share, will see all 3 sides of this story. Does that sound right so far?
Yeah, I'm sorry, but what do you want the user to click on this page? The share button or another one?
The share button, or clicking on one of these to switch the focus. So right now we're showing this whole article, perspective 1, on this page, and then just a snippet of article 2 and 3.
Okay.
And then if they click on this, then it will swap. Then perspective 2 will be the featured story, and perspective 1 and 3 will be here.
Okay. I'm going to put it. I don't know if it's perspective 2. So you want it maybe there or elsewhere?
I would do this. So screen 4 would be if they clicked perspective 2. I'm going to call this perspective
2.
Oops, I can spell. So if they click this.
Yes, okay. So this is a call to action button, actually. Okay, great. Yep. So we don't have this. Perspective 2. Okay.
So I think we're somewhat biased by the mural template, but in general, in terms of design, it might be easier to put the three perspectives in columns next to each other when we're talking about designing for a desktop rather than for a mobile experience. The portrait format of the screens that are in the mural sort of suggest a mobile experience, but we don't really have to create a mobile experience.
That's true.
The visibility line could be somewhere here for desktop. Sorry, just like this, for example.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Finn. I guess for me, it also kind of goes, for me, the user experience goes like this. It's not so much that I need to see all three sides of an article weighted the same, exactly the same. It's that as long as I know that there are more additional sides that are maybe opposite of the side that I'm interested in on that same page, then I can click on those, but I don't want to inhibit the user's reader experience by making all three articles a single column on a 3-column page, because every single one of those articles is going to be a less than optimal reader experience because the column is so narrow. And maybe it's my designer bias, but I'm thinking like, I want to see one article treated like it's the primary article on that page with the other two perspectives there, rather than always having to see all three perspectives treated from an editorial and design perspective treated the same. But maybe that would defeat our entire purpose. I don't know, but that's just how.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
It was just an idea. We can totally stick with yours.
Or
just...
I mean, let's improve the user experience. Let's have a little toggle button at the top that lets people choose reader view or browse view. And if they choose, they can click that button on desktop and see 3 columns weighting all 3 articles the same. Or if they click the icon that has the large gray square and 2 small gray squares, then they see the view that we're showing now.
I think we can. I would go for the easier option and just do one. If I'm completely convinced by what you were saying, I didn't factor it in. If we feel like we have the time to allow for the luxury of a toggle button, then we can go ahead with that. But since I'm probably not going to be building the prototype, I'd really like to leave the decision to whoever is actually going to be building it.
Okay, good to know. Anyone else want to say something? Sarah, it looks like you want to.
Yeah, I was going to add something about the interaction at the bottom. Share this could be one, and then maybe adding like a like and dislike or something like that. You can like measure the reports of the views. So like, yeah, this is a good view. One thing is to me like the fact check, right? Like we have, we want to validate if it's fake news or not, and the leaning, like what are people leaning towards? So I thought like a like and dislike, just like for the obvious kind of like iconography I would think about, like, thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you guys think?
I like the idea of generating engagement, trying to figure out how and I kind of like the idea of showing reader sentiment without getting into comments and having to deal with that issue. What does everyone else think about like, dislike, or upvote, downvote?
I don't know if it's maybe it's a bit of a difficult idea, but if you would have the 3 columns next to each other, you could have like a bar that lets people show that it's like 2 points, like before reading, after reading, if they moved into any of the directions, left to right or right to left. So we actually know if it's changing their view in any directions or they're super light.
So I think what I'm hearing is not just like or dislike, and maybe I'm mishearing, but not just like or dislike, but you could actually have a scale for each one, and each reader could vote if they wanted to on well, for example, if they think that this article is actually, I don't know what the scale would be, honestly. But each person that uses that scale, it would aggregate that and show a score of like, this article has been voted 76% something.
No, I was thinking more if you have a scale and instead of voting once, instead of like or disliking once, you do it twice. Opinion before, opinion after. So where were you on the scale, left to right, before and after? I don't know, maybe it's a bit of a weird idea.
Okay, I like it.
So just to clarify, like a user can click multiple times and it will add votes.
Like before, for example, before you start reading, you have a scale and then you have left to right and you're like, I'm here on this topic. And then after reading, like I'm maybe here on this topic or here. So we know, like, are we actually moving people closer together or like, are we just polarizing them or because
yeah.
I mean,
But that would be like the report side or in the actual page. Like if they want to click
under the columns or under the art, like to a specific article, specific set of articles.
I don't know which icons represents the best what you are saying. Is it
I don't know either, but I'm just going to put this in here.
Okay, great.
On a bar.
Something, yeah.
Like more of a sliding scale on political view. I don't know. I can see it, but like it's hard to explain.
Yeah, I think we just need to figure out what we want to measure, what the reader experience is that we want to measure. Is it that I feel more informed now than I was before? Is it that my views have changed slightly? Is it that I think this is a fair article and unbiased? I don't know the answer.
Maybe it should be fair and unbiased, like a dislike or something, and then you could ask them, I don't know, when they want to leave the website, you can ask them a sliding scale, like this did this change your opinion, or do you feel more informed, or something like this.
Would that be a little modal pop-up that once you left an article, it would just say, for example, rate this and then underneath that, it would say, never show again. Why can't I get two things on it? Oh, I know why.
Well, I also think like when you're rating, it can give you like those options, right? So when you click rate this, it could say, was this, what, I don't know, like what percentage or I don't know how like they formulate the question, but like would be, did this help you to see a different perspective? What percentage, or like asking like maybe 3 questions, not to make it too complicated.
Yeah, something like that. It's a little bit more than just likes it like this and this, because that is again two opinions you can have. Where with
is it about
multiple questions, you really make someone see that there is a scale as well, or that there are multiple options.
What about doing the page for rate this on the third storyboard page here? Can I do that for you?
Sure.
Yes. So let's put that here. Well, let's see that for after. Just rate this. If you are on rate this, what do you want to see? Rate this.
So what we're looking at here is not necessarily the third screen, but it's the third step in the prototype. So this is what the test subject will see after they have experienced this screen. One of the options will be to click something, and I think what Marie is creating here is what the test subject will see next. And in this case, we're talking about either interim page or a modal window or something. And then we want to walk through what it is we want to collect, what information we want to collect from that reader.
One information I think we should collect is like, did they read the other point of view, you know, because not only like reading this point of view, but like they actually took the time to read the others. So we might want to know that, right?
Yeah, we'll know it if they click it, but it's kind of interesting to consider asking them because the difference between what they actually said and what they actually did could be kind of illuminating. But yeah, if they had clicked either of these two things, we'll know. But my sense is whatever this screen is, it has to be as brief as possible. Because if it asks me to do more than one thing before I move on to the next page, I'm going to click that little button that says, never show me this again.
Yes.
And people also, I think that if you ask them, do you want to rate these? They're like, skip, and then rate these. They ask you again, they skip. Like it will be like 3 or 4 times for people to really engage.
Yeah.
Ratings.
Yeah. So I also feel like whatever it is we do on this screen, it can't just be rate, because that's become far too generic. It has to be something that is consistent with our brand, and our brand is understanding and seeing all sides. So whatever it is we ask people to do on this screen, it has to be more than just up, down. It has to be something that do you feel more informed?
Okay. Let me write that. Do you feel more informed?
And then that could be a scale.
And that could be a scale. So it's not rate this. Oh, I cannot
Yeah.
erase this thing. Yes.
Yeah, you can. Oh,
You feel more informed.
okay.
And here a scale. So something like this with a label, or how do you see that?
Yeah, that's good enough for now.
Good enough for now?
Yep.
And some specific labels,
Yeah.
like the worst and the best would be, I don't know. Totally or not at all, something like this.
It could just be less and more.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And next, so imagine the person choose one of the star, and then
Then they'll have some kind of button. Oops, actually, like
okay. Yes. Okay. So let's keep the orange to choose the action, the main action. And this leads to next visualization, and what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. So
He goes back to, he continues reading. What?
yeah, first, yeah, that if they click rate this, all they're doing is rating it. And if they click submit, they should come back here.
Yes, yes. And then the second action should be maybe share this or something like that.
Yes.
Oh, 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 oh. Well.
Yeah. The lines in Mural are squirrely.
Yes, I'm sorry for that, but I hope you understand. Or if you have a better idea to represent the return. Okay, and then they should click on share this, and this is the view for.
I'm just going to put this over here.
Yeah, thank you. So share this. So what do we want to display here?
Since we only have about 15, 20 minutes left, I think the rest of the flow here,
Yes.
I can work out. Let's circle back and say, okay, we've kind of got our flow. We know that basically share this is our last action step.
Okay.
Everyone agree with that? So with that known, what else can we add to this user experience that makes it sticky, that makes people want to come back and
Yes.
value it more than what they've already seen?
Yes.
So what can we add here besides a better user experience, something that looks more well designed and maybe asks for more user interaction? Sarah?
Yeah, I think that the community based type of platforms create engagement. So let's say this one, if it's a standalone platform, but there might be, you can create a profile or something. This could be like not part of our MVP, but maybe adding features where you can share these, but maybe the platform will send it to groups of people with like different perspectives. So like, let's say, I don't know, like with the information we gather from our users, we'll know like these people are leaning to this side or that side. And then we will curate the content to the opposite side, you know? So when you like maybe like when you share these, like when you click share these, it can be broadcasted to the audience of the opposite view, you know? But we need to get that data, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the flow just under. So those little text, screen 2, screen 3, screen 4. And I'm seeing on screen 4, choose one of the curated topic. No, okay, no, it's not that, sorry.
Yeah.
Screen 6 is one very valuable, maybe for me. Reconsider belief that their news sources are correct and unbiased. How could we design this screen?
Yeah, that's a good question. If that's one of our goals from our original story flow, that reconsideration that we want people to have we introduced that so far? I mean, we hope that people, if they click more than one version of a story, if there's 3 versions of the same topic on one page, they read one that they're most inclined to believe, but then they read the other one or maybe the third one. We're hoping that they will have that internal conversation that says, maybe I have some bias, or maybe the sources that I'm most loyal to are have their own bias.
Mm.
So if that's what we're hoping that they come away with, how can we measure that? How can we get them to indicate that? How can we remind them that maybe that's what has just happened?
Well, I was thinking that if they in this screen, sorry, do you feel more informed? If they say less, it should display something to compensate, to support, to help. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah, it could, or we could report to our reader what other readers have come away with after getting to this point.
Yes, it's a good idea. Yes.
So for example, maybe not so much are you more informed, or in addition to that, we have some way of measuring that other readers have told us that on this particular topic, other readers have said that they there's some metric that we have measured that said other readers have told us that they have reconsidered their beliefs after reading 2 or more of these articles on this page.
So I'm writing. Other readers reconsidered their position or their.
Good enough. And
There?
I don't know, yeah, and I don't know how we do that, but that to me is getting back to what Manu was concerned about is it isn't just here's all sides, read it and then good luck. It's more of, you know, we're in this business to open minds, not to reinforce beliefs. So
Yes.
this is one of those things that is our part of our brand, and that is we've proven that people who spend time on this website feel more open-minded, that they have their positions changed. And if you don't want your position changed, then we're not for you, and we get it. Good luck. But
Yes.
if you're coming here, it's because you feel like there might be some bias, but you don't know, and this website is here to show you where it might be.
So what should we display here? Something like a user and what?
I don't know. Who has some ideas on how we can represent reader sentiment that they either believe that they are reconsidering their belief that their news sources are correct, or not? How would we represent that based on what we can collect from our users?
So what I was thinking, if we have some sort of testimonial, if there's something written there by some other user, that would usually sort of imply that there's also some sort of way to leave a comment on your own. What you could maybe a nice way to show this would be through statistics.
Yes, I was thinking about that too. So not testimonials, but something like 60% of the users of the platform reconsider their position, something like this.
And how would you think we'd go about collecting that?
Yeah.
Thanks to this. Do you feel more informed? Oh no. No, it's another one. Sorry.
What do you think, Finn?
It would sort of, I mean, I would probably, if you were just asking me on my political position, I probably wouldn't be interested. But if I would, and this would sort of bring back in the political compass sort of thing. But if there was like a paywall from keeping me from looking at how did this influence other people from other. This would be a statistic that I would be so interested to look at that I would probably fill out some sort of short 3-question survey to provide some data on my own. But there would have to be a short survey of some sort to generate data.
Okay. I'm just going to write some. Go ahead.
Yes. Yes. I have an idea. Is it a question like, did you change your mind after reading that?
Yep.
No?
Well, that would be like a yes, no answer. So it would
Yes.
be like how I mean, the question should be more like, because it's a rating like from 0 to 10 or something like, so it'd say, did you gain more understanding, or I don't know, like something about, not like the yes no answer, like you know, just saying
Likert scale. A bit, not
from-
at all.
Yeah, how much did you, I don't know, how like there has to be like a number, right? Like how much do you think it helped you to gather a broader understanding, or I'm not sure the question exactly, but the idea, you know.
Yeah, I like that idea. Like, one way we could represent that rating system would be something kind of like they have at the grocery store, where it's like, how satisfied were you with how we did your groceries today? And it's like unhappy face, slightly unhappy face, medium face, really happy face. And then, do you feel like you are more informed? Do you have a better understanding? And then like the more, it could be like exploded head or something, And one idea would be to incorporate this sort of testimonial idea that Finn was talking about. Could be like, if somebody does one of the extremes of less or more, then here's the text box that's like, what was so mind expanding about this, or what was so detrimental about this article, as like a talking point, because there's somebody that is feels strongly about this article.
Okay.
And thanks to that, we could have a statistic to show on screen 5. Other readers reconsidered their position. 24% changed their position after reading perspective 2.
This is sort of what I meant with the scale. So yeah, I really like this idea.
Okay, good.
What do you think about that?
I like it. As long as it's, and this is part of our user experience, as long as it's measured and brief and as unobtrusive as possible, we need to find that balance between bugging people and making them feel like they're in control and they're contributing, but we're not pestering them. One other thing I just thought of as you guys were talking is maybe part of our brand and our differentiation is this idea of radical transparency. So that what we do with all of our articles is we have a little graph button or something at the bottom of each one. And if you click it, you get to see all of the data that we've collected on the time people have spent on those articles reading them. And there's other things that we can collect, but we could basically tell people this article is only, people are bouncing from this page much more frequently than this other page, or something that reports back to our users what everyone else is actually doing on the website. And that could be a way to measure how much our reader base trusts a particular article. So in that way, we're hopefully gaining more and more credibility from our readers because we're reporting back the data that is typically hidden, but that is useful to know if how others are engaging with the information.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah.
Yes. I was thinking about putting the rating feature just on the same page as you're reading, actually.
And then once you've used it, it goes away?
Yes. It encourages more to use it than a button that leads to a pop-up or something else.
I totally agree. I really don't like the idea of getting people off of a page and then taking them back.
Yes, so it could be like this, and a button skip to make it disappear if you don't want to participate.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Do we have we thought through the whole share action as much as we could? I'm just thinking from the user test perspective, we've got someone, one of our testers with a user, and we walked them through, or they've used our prototype. Are we confident that we're at that point that we feel like enough of our users are going to give us a clear action on whether they use the share button or not, or has that been given enough consideration?
Is it really what we want to test here?
The share?
Yes, I'm not sure about that. It's a quite common feature. Or you think about something else, I don't know.
Well, we could just say share is one of the things that we want them to do. We also want them to engage with all of the activities that we put on these pages, and that will demonstrate engagement and therefore some level of commitment or loyalty.
I think
Well,
share is definitely the clearest way to see if someone does not only think it's interesting for him or her, but also for other people, and feels confident enough about the product and the value that it will share it with the people in their social media network. So for me, sharing really proves the value of a product even more than
yes,
engaging. So yes, it's a common feature. That's true, but I don't think it's about testing the share feature. It's about
yes, showing it
yeah.
and asking if is it relevant for the user. No? Do you feel like you would share this page? This could be a question.
So I want to add that maybe not sharing the one perspective, but sharing the three perspectives could be more valuable, because like if I'm going to share it in Twitter or in Facebook, what the perspective one, that still gives goes back to the polarization. So, but when I click share and it gives the three perspectives in a concise way, then you're sharing 3 points of views in Facebook, which is not very common.
I kind of assumed that we would be doing that anyway. Maybe I shouldn't have made that assumption, but yeah, definitely sharing the three perspectives next to each other, that would be the valuable thing, and that will be the one that also lures other people in to change their perspectives or be more informed. Definitely not share one out of three articles, not even have that option.
Okay, so I erase the button here and I put it on the previous page like this, and not here. Is this your idea?
Yeah, I think what we're saying in general is you can't share one article. You can only share a page that has all articles on one page. So you can never click through, come to this page and just see one. You'll never see just perspective one. You'd see perspective one, however we represent it, but you'll see perspective one, +2, +3, all in one space. Is that what you were saying, Sarah?
Yeah, so like it can be on the page of the story, but because we'll have tons of stories, right? So we cannot all fit in one homepage. So if we have thousands of stories, they have the option to share those stories, but when you click share, it compacts the three perspectives.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, so story, blah, 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 perspective 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Okay, we're done. I know everyone has other commitments. Let's just spend a couple of minutes here talking about schedule and next steps, and who's doing what, and what it is we're actually going to build. From what I can see here, as much as I would love to have Austin build something that is like an actual website, I think that what we're talking about here is something that's either built in Figma or Sketch or something, and then JPEGs exported to Envision for a loose, clickable, interactive prototype. Does that sound like everyone's idea of this so far?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm kind of intrigued as to how that flow would work. So I'd like to kind of see how that fits together.
Okay.
Do you need more precision for prototyping?
Marie, if you have time to go back into each one of these screens and add more, just to make sure everything is covered, that would be great. But what we have here, and based on the recording of the video too, to go back and retrace our steps, I personally would have enough here to begin building screens.
Oh, great.
I like the idea that you mentioned Figma because it's very highly collaborative. I'm not sure what's the next, who's gonna do what, but if there's more than one person doing the more like refined wireframe,
well, yes.
Go for Figma.
So who will be creating these screens? Maybe a show of hands who can and who is willing to.
I can help.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can help like I did today, but not more concerning the visual part.
I understand.
I would like to help, but I probably need quite some instructions. So I think that would cost even more time.
Well, okay. So it sounds like our actual hands-on team would be myself and Sarah. The problem for me, Sarah, is that I'm very intrigued by Figma, but I'm not experienced with it. And whereas Sketch is something I know like the back of my hand, but it's not as collaborative as Figma.
Yes, this is a problem.
Oh, you can import Sketch into Figma if that would be a way to go. But whatever you prefer, like I can use both. I definitely have more experience in Sketch, but Figma is also very highly collaborative.
You have more experience in Sketch?
I've used Sketch more than Figma. I just started using Figma maybe this year. So
okay, I think maybe you and I are probably similar then. So I would suggest that we work in Sketch, and we can find ways to make it collaborative. Their collaborative tool is not as good as Figma, I think, but I'm faster. You probably are too in Sketch. So let's just, you and I agree to stay in Sketch. And over the next day or so, we'll figure out the details of how to do that. So then the next question is schedule and user testing. To be honest, this feels a lot like every other GVDS sprint I've been in, where by the time we get to Thursday, we need Friday and the weekend to actually build a prototype. And the actual user testing isn't done until sometime over the following week, if you're lucky.
I can provide members or participants for user testing, but I need to announce an event and the amount of people we need. So before, like maybe 3 days to a week before.
Right.
If you guys are interested in doing that.
And then who is going to be doing our user testing? Volunteers? Austin?
I've never done it before, but I'm willing to learn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same here.
Manu? How about you, Marie or Finn?
I could also do some user testing.
I've never done a user testing that actually works with an interface and is online, but I mean, you can give it a go, right?
Who here is the most experienced doing user testing?
I've done.
I'm experienced, but in French, so I'm not sure.
Your English is fine. Yeah. Sarah?
I've done it, but I mean, not like extremely experienced. I've done it. So,
what about you, Finn? How would you characterize your experience?
I did user testing for one sprint.
Okay. I think maybe the way I'd like to proceed, if you guys are in agreement, let's have Marie and Sarah kind of team up to lead it. And then the way the testing should work is we would almost always have 2 people on our side doing the testing with the subject. And one of the 2 people would lead the testing. The other person would be in the background taking notes. Yep. And then they could hand off as other people got more experience, as say Manu and Austin saw how it was done by being in the background. Maybe the later test, they could be the facilitator and someone else could be in the background taking notes.
Yeah, that sounds great to me.
Okay, so Marie and Sarah, maybe you 2 can team up and figure out how that works and the schedule. And Sarah, you can start reaching out to people. Actually, everyone can start reaching out, but Sarah will coordinate the test subjects and who they are and when they are and the qualities of that person, so that we get a good cross section and we know, where our data is coming from and what kind of bias might be behind it. And then as far as when, we should probably say this time next week, like in the Wednesday, Thursday timeframe is when we will try to schedule our tests. Sound good so far?
When did you say?
Wednesday or Thursday, or Wednesday and Thursday of next week.
Okay, Wednesday or Thursday. One question, how many people do we need? Because I can gather
5.
5. Okay, that's not bad.
5.
And how do you want to work on that? Do you want to do iterative, rapid iterative testing and evaluation, or do you want to test the same prototype with 5 people?
I want to do the same prototype with 5 people.
Okay. It's easier actually.
Yeah.
So maybe better for us.
And since this is a hobby for all of us, I don't think anyone has time to make adjustments to the prototype as we go.
Yeah.
So I have a suggestion. If anybody else wants to gain that experience of user testing, I'm not sure if I can attend to the 5 sessions because that's scheduling 5 people and walk them through. But I could coordinate it, and the others members here in the team can also attend. There's like, it's really straightforward because we only have like a script of questions, and really it's just asking that user to
I
That-
think that's what we just sort of agreed upon. Like you and
Yeah.
you and Marie will sort of coordinate and run. Me and Austin will attend, and at some point we can probably take over and do like the last couple of them. As long as we have seen one of you do it like 1 or 2 times, and Finn as well, or Finn has to go. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
sorry.
either go or also attend.
Okay.
You,
Both actually.
oh, both. Okay,
Yeah,
that's good.
but goodbye.
Okay, goodbye, Finn.
Take it
Bye.
easy, Finn.
Hi, Finn. Okay, yeah, I think we're all on the same page there. So Sarah, you can coordinate, maybe build a little simple worksheet of who we're getting and their time frame and a little background information about each one of them. And then we also need to come up with a script. So someone needs to write our test script based on our story as we see it here. Obviously, it will be adjusted when the prototype is available early next week. And we'll have to do some run-throughs when we have our prototype with our testers to modify and update the script. But we should draft a script now of what it is we're asking from our test subjects. Can anyone volunteer to take that on? Write a script.
I find it a bit hard to write a script without really knowing how this goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would if I was more familiar.
I can write something of what I've understood, and you can add or modify
Perfect.
this
Marie,
first draft.
why don't you start it, and with the
Yes.
understanding that it is a rough draft, and
Yes.
put it in our shared drive, and we will all see it. And before we get to say Monday or Tuesday, we will have a final draft of it, which
Yes.
will sync up with the prototype when it becomes available, and we should be good to go.
Okay. So I create a Google document. Is it okay for
Yes.
everybody?
Perfect.
Yes. Okay. So let's do that.
Okay. Anything else we need to cover? Does everyone feel good about where we're at so far? I
Yeah.
feel pretty good. Maybe it's just because this part of the project is almost always the most easy for me to figure out, but I feel pretty good about where we're at.
Oh, great. And we see each other tomorrow, no?
Well, technically, we don't really have anything planned.
Oh, okay.
So, and plus we have the retrospective tomorrow from wherever you are. It's a 3-hour long session, I guess. But for me, it starts halfway through this session. So
I think now it's most offline work, right?
so it's almost all offline work. Sarah and I will coordinate on the prototype part and working in Sketch, and she and I can work together and pass things back and forth. We can create a shared document in Sketch Cloud, which I've used before, but it's kind of janky, but I think we can figure it out. But it'll be offline. And as we go, we will share our progress to make sure that the team is contributing and we're not going off on our own tangent. And so we'll be sharing our Envision prototype, interactive prototype, sometime very soon. Probably the first version that will be seen sometime, I'm guessing Monday at this point.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah, absolutely.
So I've just created the document. Script for user tests. Is it okay?
Yep. Would it be helpful, Marie, for me to share any scripts from previous GVDS tests?
If you want, but I have like I know how to do that, so I have in mind what kind of questions, kind of things we can say.
Perfect. let's just go with that.
But if you have a yes, if you have something, it can be helpful anyway
Okay.
in English.
Okay. Well, we'll start with where you're at, and we'll just go from there.
Okay, great.
Okay. Okay. Nice work, everyone. I feel good about this.
So here it is. Right? Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Are you
Very good.
reassured? Are you happy with what we did today?
Me personally,
Yes, everybody.
yeah,
Do
I
you
am.
feel comfortable with what we did today?
Yeah, for me, I think it's starting to come together where it's making a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same. It becomes tangible. So yeah.
Yes.
I will be curious to know, especially from both Manu and Austin, who haven't really done this thing before of actually seeing the pre-design wireframing thing, especially Austin, because you're mostly on the other side of a project like this. I'll be curious to see, how you see this now after having gone through it. What UI people actually go through in order to get to the place where you finally come into the project. But we can have that conversation later.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to end the meeting. Everyone can go
Yeah.
about their day or night.
I do have one question. I don't know
Yes.
if it's too difficult. Like I am actually quite interested in seeing how like you are gonna build this prototype, this facade.
Mhm.
So, but I have no idea how it works. But maybe I can like also join. I don't know if it's possible, but if I can join the sketch team and just like sort of follow over the weekend what you guys are doing, so I see how it builds up, or is that difficult?
I'm not sure, but I think we can add you to the sketch on a comment level so that you
Something like
can
that,
see the
yeah.
screens and you can actually drop comments on them, but you just can't use the tools. But I'm not sure. I know that Sketch has a online version or something. I don't know. I stay in my own little world, but we'll work on it. Sarah, I think, has more information here.
So they have like a 30-day trial if you want to check it out. Also as a free.
Yeah, that's true. They definitely have a free 30-day trial. I can, if that makes it possible for me to like just.
If I think you could probably join the cloud version of the Sketch and be in there. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
That goes for everybody.
That's interesting because that's interesting to follow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was my question. Then
Okay.
that's all.
So as soon as we set this up, and if everyone who wants to be part of it can just send their, whatever it is we'll need, probably email address or something, we can invite you to that and you can participate.
Sweet.
Perfect.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
All
you
right.
for today.
Thanks,
It
everyone.
was good.
Yeah.
Thank
This
you.
video
Video will
session.
go up later today.
Bye.
Cool. Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.